This is it, gang. This is it. I know this is it because when you listen closely, I hear, this is it. Yes. And the other side, I hear, this is it. Yes. What is it? Yes, it's it. This is the Friedman high voltage tube preamp that I didn't know I needed. But then as soon as I was shown it, that was it. It ruined me. I've known about this for a while, and for months I've just been like, when? I need that. This is it. Like I said, Friedman IRX all tube preamp, 2-channel with boost. So honestly, it's really like a 4-channel preamp. Now the preamp goes into the digital backend, which has power amp simulation and IRs in here. This is the centerpiece of your pedal board. This is your direct recording solution. Show up to the gig, plug it into the back end of your amp, and then run the IR to the front of the house. You're gonna sound amazing. And what is the most amazing thing about this is you just look at this. This is where like the knobs almost always are just like this. Very similar to many of the other Friedman products where you just don't have to work to get it to sound amazing. You just plug in, sounds amazing. You don't menu dive. You don't end up going like, is that the model? Maybe I should use a different model. Clean, broken up, crunch, lead, done. Sounds amazing, done. Quickly, what this is not, it's not an overdrive pedal, not a overdrive pedal, not a distortion pedal. It's not a BE pedal. This is a tube preamp. This is the direct recording solution. So there's so many ways you could run this. I'm gonna run you through several different setups that you could use it with, but most importantly, I'm just gonna show you how good it sounds. And it feels good. Why does it feel good? It's because it's a high voltage real tube preamp. This is a Friedman. And then it goes to the digital backside, which has the power amp simulation and a low latency IR out, which the IRs sound amazing. Why would that be? So let's plug in to the Friedman IRX. All the knobs are pretty much straight up and down. I'm set to channel 2, and I'm using the first cab IR slot. That is Dave's naked cab. You know, that cool, totally beat up cab that he's used for 100 years, and it sounds awesome. You have 3 front panel IR slots that are assignable to the channels. It ships with a full assortment of custom IRs, as well as you could just load your own in, and the Friedman IRs will always be there. So there's no danger of like deleting anything. They're baked in. So you could just use them or not. Turn it on, set everything to 12, and it sounds awesome. Let's gain this up. There's no thought of changing knobs or changing IRs. I mean, honestly, look, when we use modelers, we all go to the Friedman amp model anyway, so the real thing. Channel 2 is Friedman gloriousness, but there's an assignable boost, foot switchable and independent for each channel 1 and channel 2. The boost is not heavily colored. It's a nice, clean boost, but let me show you what this sucker does. That's the lead sound. That's the tight mega chunk. It's super awesome. The way you adjust this, there's 2 little knobs that work perfectly with either adjusting with a pick, your thumb. You could even just grab on a little tightly. That adjusts the gain. I just have it straight up and down. over here, this is the new volume. When you switch to boost, you get an independent volume for boost mode. So let's say I'm in crunch. Let's go back to crunch. Get out in front, right? You could go as far as you want, or you just set them to the same thing, and now you've got kind of two gain modes. Like I said, you have just channels. Back to this IR switch over here. On the far left, it defaults to Dave's naked cab. In the center, it's a Friedman V30 cab, because there's a lot of V30 lovers out there. On the far right is my personal favorite, which is a vintage British cab with a mix of UK greenbacks and V30s, which just is, it's sort of extra beefy. To me, it's hulking. That's where I like to go. Anyway, let's go back to Dave's. Let's look over here at this tight switch. This is still part of the dual tube high voltage preamp section. That's not a digital tight switch. This is changing the electricity in there. And tight is this. Now, that also sounds cool for lead stuff. But it has sort of thinned it out and gives it a little more like cutting slant. Go to the right side. Now you're in the fatter of the two modes. I think of it as tight and fat. Bottom end on the heavy crunch feels more like that giant sort of like late 90s mega bottom end, but it also is really sweet for more lead tones. So you've got two overall colors for your channel 2 if you want it fat or if you want it tight. And going back to channel 1, this is like that Friedman Plexi Clean. Instead of a tight fat switch, there is a three-way bright switch, which is very helpful. Going to the left here, whoop, pump the gain. Channel 1 has a pretty good gain range on its own. In the vintage world, the boost pushes it into like big, fat sort of SRV tones. And that's, again, with the boost straight up. I'm just gonna, let's crank up this boost. When I sit back, I just enjoy hearing the notes. I enjoy the way it naturally compresses when you dig in. It feels there for me when I'm playing. It feels like an amp. Most everything you'll need is accessible from the front panel. You've got your gain and tone controls, the bright switch, the tight switch, you've got your channel switching, the boost levels off to the side here. The foot switches, however, have dual functions. If you hold down channel 1, it will turn off the IRs completely from the main output. So in case you want to run from the main output to your power amp, or if you want to use IRs in the box, easy way to turn off the built-in IRs. If you hold down channel 2, it will bypass the effects loop. There's a mono effects loop, just like there is in all of the other Friedman amps. This will allow you to actually quickly turn off any of your maybe like reverbs and delays that you have going on in there. Or it's just, it could be a fail-safe where you're like, ooh, total bypass. Holding down boost stores program changes which would be accessible via MIDI or the IRX editor. Let's take a look at that. This is the IRX editor. It's connected via USB. It allows you to get deeper into the back end of the IRX functions. You can see here you could store program changes, which allows you to MIDI switch the IRX. The things that are MIDI switchable is which channel is active, whether or not you want the boost on, the effects loop on, IRs. You could assign a separate IR for every program if you want. But you cannot change the gain level or the EQs itself. However, in the power amp simulation, you have presence and thump. It defaults to the center position, which sounds really good. But if you wanted to go heavy on the thump, you could just kick that up and save that as your default into, say, channel 2. Or you could blast the presence and thump, set a super heavy IR, and it's going to completely change the character of the preamp that you're sending through it. And then on a separate channel, you could go back to something more balanced and a little more like a Brown sound kind of thing. There's a lot of dramatic tonal shaping you could do through the MIDI switching, and you could switch that quickly, but you don't have to. You could just set it up once and go with that as your sound, or dive in and out through the USB editor as you see fit. Now here's the default 3 IRs, but there is an entire assortment of IRs that come with the IRX. You see here, this is Dave's iconic Bearwood cabinet. You can scroll through these. Nice little descriptions for each one, or if you click there, here is the assortment. If you're really married to a particular kind of IR, or you're looking for something totally different, you could click on the folder and dive into your secret IR stash, load something up. And there you go. So say you have another preamp that you love so much, like so much that it's a part of your family. You love it like one of your kids. and you want to use this preamp, but it's kind of a pain to use preamps. You know, I'll be the first to tell you. Now, you could take said preamp, plug into that, come out of the preamp into the effects return of the IRX. Now what you've got is a power amp and IR sim in a box. You're bypassing the whole tube front end of the IRX. As you can see, I'm in channel 2, but all of the knobs are totally down, right? Everything is coming from the Soldano channel 2 that was modded by Dave Friedman. Best of both worlds, right? So Soldano is coming in here. It's hitting the power amp sim, and I get my choice of cab IR. Nice. Now I have the IRX set up as a preamp. It's a tube preamp. So we're going IRX preamp into 50 watt tube power amp, into 212 cabinet, to the SM57, to the mic pre, to the interface, or you could just go into the IRX straight to your interface, but we're doing preamp style, so that's what you gotta do. All of those things. So the first thing you'll notice, I'm going out of the main output, is it's gonna sound terrible because there's an IR on the main output. We have to turn that off. Very simply, you just hold down channel 1. Easy peasy. Now there's another way to do this. You go out of the IRX's effect send, which doesn't have an IR on it. Sounds the same as turning the IR off on the main output, but it saves your main output so that you could send an IR version to the front of house, or you could record an IR version or the cab version at the same time. Pick what works for you better after you've done the take. And both sound awesome. The Friedman IRX. This is it. Yep. That's the voices in my head. They tend to take the shape of yacht rock. I mean, it is it. All tube Friedman preamp, power amp sim, IR, great IRs inside. It's awesome. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.